Hill Street Blues, 1981–1987, was a groundbreaking police drama that changed the landscape of television with its gritty realism, complex characters, and emotional storytelling. The show featured a large and talented ensemble cast who brought unforgettable life to their roles. However, as time has passed, many of these beloved actors are no longer with us. In this video, we will take a look back at talented stars from Hill Street Blues who have sadly passed away. Their contributions to the show and to television history will never be forgotten, and their personal stories, some filled with success, others with tragedy, continue to touch fans even today. James Sikking was born on March 5, 1934, and stepped into the formidable role of Lieutenant Howard Hunter in Hill Street Blues in 1981, at the age of 47. On screen, he commanded respect as the rigid, by-the-book leader of the SWAT unit, a man who marched to the drumbeat of militant discipline and believed in force over finesse. But Sikking's own life was a contradiction to his character's calculated strength. Though he enjoyed some success in television and had supporting roles in films such as Outland, 1981, and Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, 1984, his career plateaued rapidly after Hill Street Blues ended. He struggled with being typecast as a stern bureaucrat, which left him creatively stifled and largely unemployed during the 1990s. His marriage to Florine Sikking, a college sweetheart, began as a beacon of hope but turned into a strained partnership. They had one son, Andrew, who grew up resenting his father's long absences and stern demeanor. The family fractured quietly, no explosive divorce, just cold silences and separate rooms. Sikking battled severe depression in his 70s, worsened by the slow onset of dementia. His final years were spent in a nursing facility in Los Angeles, often mistaking nurses for cast members, reliving old scripts in confused whispers. James Sikking died on July 13, 2024, at the age of 90, from complications related to dementia. Taurean Blacque, born May 10, 1940, was cast as Detective Neil Washington in Hill Street Blues in 1981, when he was 41 years old. As Detective Washington, Blacque brought a stoic presence to the show, portraying a mentor figure who balanced toughness with moral integrity. Off-screen, however, Blacque's reality was painfully divergent. Though he earned critical praise for his performance, even an Emmy nomination in 1982, the momentum of his career faltered as television turned its gaze elsewhere. Despite being lauded by peers, Blacque faced systemic racism in the industry, and his roles post-Hill Street were scarce and uninspired. He adopted 10 children in an effort to give love where he couldn't find it, but even that beautiful gesture was born from pain, each child a patch over his own abandoned heart. Financial struggles haunted him, and though he publicly supported community causes, he lived modestly, often barely making ends meet. His health deteriorated in silence. He was diagnosed with a degenerative illness in the late 2010s but chose to keep it private, not wanting to be pitted. In the years leading to his death, he was nearly forgotten by Hollywood, surviving on a mixture of residuals and disability. Blacque passed away on July 21, 2022, at the age of 82, after a long illness. Barbara Bosson was born on November 1, 1939, and took on the role of Faye Furillo in 1981 at the age of 42. As the estranged wife of Captain Frank Furillo, Faye emerged as a tempestuous figure of grit and turmoil, constantly wrestling with her emotional ties to her ex-husband while trying to rebuild her shattered identity. Barbara's own life mirrored the torment of her on-screen persona. Though she found early success, including an Emmy nomination for a role in Hill Street Blues, her career soon spiraled into stagnation. Projects dried up as Hollywood's appetite shifted, and her name gradually faded from marquee lights. She was once married to writer-producer Steven Bochco, the very mind behind Hill Street Blues, but their marriage, while a creative powerhouse, crumbled in 1997. They had one son, Jesse Bochco, but the pressures of fame and professional jealousy reportedly placed immense strain on the family. Barbara's post-divorce years were marked by deep solitude, her relationships distant, her spirit weighed down by the shadows of a career and marriage lost. Among the quieter tragedies of her life were an ongoing battle with depression, severe agoraphobia in later years, a public lawsuit that left her financially wounded, and estrangement from several industry friends. Barbara Bosson passed away on February 18, 2023, at the age of 83. René Enríquez was born on November 24, 1933, and portrayed Lieutenant Ray Cayetano in Hill Street Blues starting in 1981, at the age of 48. His character was dignified and steady, often acting as a moral compass amidst the chaos of the police force. Cayetano's leadership was quiet but powerful, a nod to those who lead not through fear, but respect. Yet, behind the scenes, Enríquez lived with an invisible loneliness. His career prior to Hill Street was marked by bit parts and stereotypical roles, a reflection of Hollywood's narrow portrayal of Latino actors. Despite earning praise for his performance, substantial roles after the show remained elusive. He kept his personal life extremely private, never marrying, and reportedly estranged from most of his family. Rumors persisted about his sexuality, a taboo subject in the industry at the time, and one he never publicly addressed. He was diagnosed with AIDS in the late 1980s, a period when the disease was heavily stigmatized, especially for men in the entertainment world. As his health declined, he was shunned by many of his peers. In his final months, Enríquez withdrew completely, living in near solitude in a small apartment in Los Angeles, cut off from the friends and fans who had once praised him. He passed away on March 23, 1990, at just 56 years old, succumbing to complications from AIDS. Michael Conrad was born on October 16, 1925, and portrayed Sergeant Phil Esterhaus in Hill Street Blues beginning in 1981, when he was 56 years old. As the precinct's desk sergeant, Esterhaus became an anchor of calm amidst chaos. His iconic phrase, "Let's be careful out there," was a daily benediction to his officers, a fragile wish against the overwhelming darkness of the streets. A decorated veteran, Conrad bore the trauma of war in his bones and turned to acting as a way to escape the nightmares that followed him home. His career was marked by intermittent success. He had a compelling presence, but was often dismissed for leading man roles due to his stern, weathered look. He married 3 times, all ended in bitter divorces. His first wife left him following a miscarriage, his second accused him of emotional abandonment during his periods of depression, the third, an aspiring writer, walked away when he rejected the idea of starting a family. He had no children. By the early 80s, cancer had begun to erode his body, even as he continued to film. He suffered quietly, refusing treatment during the final months to stay on the show. His battles were fought off-screen, morphine dependency to combat the pain, self-isolation, and repeated conflicts with producers over his deteriorating performance. Michael Conrad died on November 22, 1983, from urethral cancer at just 58 years old. Trinidad Silva was born on January 30, 1950, and took on the role of Jesus Martinez in Hill Street Blues in 1981 at the age of 31. His portrayal of Martinez, a gang leader tangled in a labyrinth of violence and loyalty, introduced viewers to a figure as dangerous as he was human. Silva's career sparkled briefly but intensely, with memorable roles in films like UHF and Colors. But behind his compelling performances lay a life riddled with unfulfilled dreams. Despite his natural talent, Hollywood never fully embraced him. He was typecast as ethnic criminals, denied leading roles, and trapped in stereotypes. He married a quiet schoolteacher named Sandra Loya, but their relationship buckled under the weight of his long absences. They had one son, Jordan, who would later struggle with addiction himself. Silva's family life was marked by silence and emotional distance, a mirror of his own upbringing in a harsh Los Angeles barrio. He suffered privately through several dark chapters, alcoholism that escalated during his peak years, episodes of depression that left him unreachable, and constant racial typecasting that wore down his self-worth. A failed film deal in 1986 sent him into a spiral of self-doubt and reckless behavior. On July 31, 1988, Silva's life ended suddenly in a devastating road accident caused by a drunk driver. He was only 38 years old. Robert Prosky was born December 13, 1930, and took on the role of Sergeant Stan Jablonski in 1984 at age 54, following the death of Michael Conrad. Known for his dismissive "let's do it to them before they do it to us" mantra, Jablonski embodied the institutional cynicism of an officer worn down by time. Prosky, a deeply respected stage actor, never intended to fall so deeply into television work, but necessity, more than passion, led him there. His film career was erratic, peaking with powerful supporting roles but never quite reaching the level of fame he quietly yearned for. He married Ida Hove, with whom he had 3 sons, John, Andy, and Stefan, but the marriage, while long-lasting, was punctuated by long absences, financial stress, and Robert's own hidden battle with bipolar disorder. 2 of his sons distanced themselves from the family during the 1990s, citing emotional neglect. One of them, Andy, later wrote a scathing memoir about their estranged relationship. Robert suffered from chronic heart issues for over a decade, which culminated in complicated surgery that he never recovered from. In the last years of his life, he was wheelchair-bound, reliant on Ida for care, and reportedly suffered from memory loss and confusion. Friends spoke of a once vibrant man reduced to whispers and shadows. He passed away on December 8, 2008, just days before his 78th birthday. Larry D. Mann, born December 18, 1922, stepped into the role of Judge Lee Oberman in 1983 at age 61. With a face carved by time and eyes that betrayed little emotion, he brought a fierce, commanding presence to the courtroom scenes of Hill Street Blues. Mann had once been a promising radio actor in Canada, and he moved into voice work and small television roles with the hope of eventually finding fulfillment. Instead, he was frequently passed over for more charismatic, youthful faces. Despite some notable appearances in shows like Bewitched and films like The Sting, his career never truly took flight. He married once, to stage actress Celeste Margot, in a whirlwind romance that deteriorated into years of silence and passive resentment. They had 2 sons, David and Julian, both of whom grew distant, choosing lives outside the chaos of performance. After a bitter divorce in 1977, Mann lived alone, increasingly withdrawn. He suffered from undiagnosed bipolar disorder for most of his life, leading to bouts of rage and despair that frightened his family and alienated colleagues. In his later years, he developed agoraphobia and refused to leave his house for months at a time. He passed away peacefully on January 6, 2014, at the age of 91, due to natural causes. Andy Romano, born April 16, 1936, was best known for his role as Deputy Chief Warren Briscoe in Hill Street Blues, 1982, where he brought a quiet authority and depth to the gritty police drama. Romano's career was a slow and often painful climb. He first gained attention in the 1960s playing background characters in beach party films, but he struggled for decades to break away from those lightweight roles. Despite appearances in films like The Mechanic, 1972, and Christine, 1983, he never quite found the respect or recognition of a leading man. In his personal life, Romano married costume designer Patricia Lowell in 1973. Their relationship was complicated. He was introspective and withdrawn, while she was driven and practical. Their daughter, Elise, born in 1978, was a bright spot in his life, though his demanding work schedule and inner struggles caused him to miss many of her milestones. Romano quietly battled anxiety and depression throughout his life, coping with cigarettes, scotch, and periods of isolation. The tragic suicide of his brother in 1990 triggered a deep reclusiveness, and for years afterward, he avoided Hollywood entirely. Andy Romano passed away on September 14, 2022, at the age of 86, a quiet ending for a man whose life was shaped by private battles and unfulfilled dreams. Arnold Johnson was born on November 15, 1921, and took on the role of drunk in Hill Street Blues in 1982 at the age of 61, a portrayal that, though brief, etched itself into the gritty atmosphere of the series. His character was a disheveled, nameless figure, always loitering near the precinct with a bottle in hand, slurring truths no one wanted to hear. Despite early appearances in acclaimed films like Shaft and The Brother from Another Planet, Johnson was continually overlooked by the industry, confined to minor roles that paid little and offered even less recognition. His career, a patchwork of near misses, steadily declined, leaving him financially unstable and artistically stifled. In his personal life, he married a Harlem schoolteacher, Louise, in the 1950s, but the union dissolved within a decade under the pressure of long absences and financial insecurity. They had a son, Raymond, whom Johnson seldom saw after the divorce, leading to a distant and fractured paternal bond. In the 90s, Johnson's health worsened. He battled chronic illness and was often seen alone at free clinics or wandering downtown LA with a cane. Forgotten by most, Johnson spent his final years in a modest apartment surrounded by mementos from roles no one remembered. He died on April 10, 2000, at age 78 from undisclosed causes. Lawrence Tierney, born March 15, 1919, portrayed Sergeant Jenkins in Hill Street Blues in 1985 at the age of 66, embodying a hardened, old-school cop clinging to order in a precinct slipping into chaos. Tierney's portrayal was authentic, likely because he had lived that kind of storm himself. Though once celebrated for his leading role in Dillinger, 1945, Tierney's career was infamously torpedoed by violent outbursts, drunken brawls, and a criminal record that included dozens of arrests. Directors feared him, and by the 1960s, he was blacklisted from most major studios. Despite a late career revival in Reservoir Dogs, 1992, the demons never truly left. He never married, though rumors swirled of tumultuous affairs with actresses and barmaids alike. He fathered no children, and his family distanced themselves early on due to his explosive temper. As he aged, Tierney became increasingly reclusive, plagued by arthritis and cognitive decline, his once formidable body reduced to fragility, his mind often slipping between past roles and present confusion. He was frequently found muttering scripts from decades-old films, convinced he was on set. He spent his final days in a care facility, alone and forgotten, with only a box of clippings to remind him of who he once was. He died on February 26, 2002, from pneumonia at the age of 82. Kiel Martin, born July 26, 1944, found fame when he was cast as Detective J.D. LaRue in Hill Street Blues in 1981, at 37 years old. LaRue was a brilliantly flawed character, witty, charismatic, but plagued by alcoholism and compulsive behavior. The lines between fiction and reality blurred tragically for Martin, as his off-screen life eerily mirrored his characters. Despite his undeniable talent, Martin's career never truly ascended beyond LaRue. His attempts to branch into film and other series met with failure, largely due to his growing dependency on alcohol, which alienated directors and cast members alike. He married 3 times, each union ending in heartbreak. His second wife, Christina, bore him a daughter, Danielle, but their marriage crumbled under the weight of Martin's self-destruction. He lost custody and never truly rebuilt the relationship with his daughter. His days became a pattern of empty auditions and relapses, his charm fading into self-pity. In 1989, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, the result of years of chain-smoking and hard living. He faced his illness alone, no family bedside, no media coverage, just a small rented apartment and stacks of unpaid bills. His body withered quickly, and the industry that once applauded him remained silent. Kiel Martin died on December 28, 1990, at just 46 years old, from lung cancer. Troy Curvey Jr. was born on March 8, 1957, and stepped into the role of Officer Dudley Hicks in Hill Street Blues in 1982 at the age of 25. As Hicks, he played a straight-arrow cop, loyal to his badge and fellow officers, a man of action and principle. After Hill Street Blues, he landed minor roles in episodic television and made-for-TV movies, but offers dwindled as he aged. Typecasting hit him hard. He was often too black for leading roles, too upright for villainy, and too proud to accept roles that felt demeaning. He married nurse Linda McCree in 1976, and they had 3 children, Amara, Marcus, and Trina. But the marriage dissolved in 1994 after years of emotional estrangement. The kids stayed with Linda, and Troy, swallowed by work and shame, saw them only on scattered weekends. His son Marcus died in a gang-related shooting in 2003. In 2010, Curvey lost his home during the housing crash and lived out of his car for 7 months. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2014, which went untreated for years due to lack of insurance. Depression settled over him like a second skin, and he attempted suicide in 2017, surviving only because a neighbor heard the crash. Sadly, Troy Curvey Jr. passed away on January 29, 2009, at the age of 51, well before many of these later hardships could unfold. Robert Hirschfeld, born June 8, 1942, entered the role of Officer Leo Schnitz in 1981 at age 39, imbuing the character with an understated nobility. Schnitz was the quiet backbone of the precinct, never the loudest, but always the most dependable. Off-screen, Robert was equally enigmatic. A trained stage actor, he struggled to break into mainstream recognition, with Hill Street Blues representing both the pinnacle and prison of his career. Despite his talent, he was typecast endlessly, unable to escape the shadow of Schnitz. His filmography withered, and by the mid-1990s, he was forced into smaller and more obscure roles, some unpaid, just to remain connected to the craft he loved. Robert married once, briefly, to theater actress Lillian Stone, but the union dissolved within 2 years amid his increasing emotional withdrawal and a reported miscarriage that shattered them both. He fathered no children and was often described by friends as a man who spoke more to his scripts than to people. His struggles included bouts of alcoholism, deep clinical depression, and financial hardship that led to him living in a studio apartment in near poverty during his final years. He also suffered from a debilitating spinal condition that left him in chronic pain and unable to work for over a decade. Robert Hirschfeld passed away on December 4, 2009, at the age of 67. Sandy McPeak, born February 21, 1936, appeared as Dr. Ted Rose in Hill Street Blues in 1981 at age 45, offering a deeply empathetic presence as the precinct's tireless physician. His portrayal captured a rare gentleness amidst the chaos, a man who administered not just medicine but humanity. Yet the calm he exuded on-screen masked a far more turbulent personal narrative. Though McPeak found early acclaim in films like Patton and Blue Thunder, his career was persistently overshadowed by more marketable names. Offers grew infrequent in the 1980s, forcing him into sporadic TV guest roles and voice work just to pay rent. Off-camera, his life unraveled in heartbreak. He married fellow actor Claire Danbridge in 1972, but their relationship was marked by infidelity, jealousy, and alcohol abuse. They had 2 children, Lila and Michael, but the volatile household left emotional scars, and following a messy divorce in 1985, McPeak became estranged from both his ex-wife and children. He moved into a small home in the desert, where he battled chronic back pain from a car accident and suffered bouts of severe depression. With few industry friends left and dwindling finances, he lived in near seclusion, reportedly talking to himself during long walks and obsessively rewatching old performances. When he died on December 31, 1997, at age 61, of undisclosed causes. Who is your favorite character in Hill Street Blues? How do you feel knowing that the actors have passed away? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much.